In Umuneke village, a strange fear ruled the afternoons. Every day, when the sun burned hottest and shadows vanished from the ground, men who went to the river never returned. Farmers, fishermen, cattle rearers, hunters, it didn't matter their strength or skill. If a man set foot in that river at 3 o'clock, in him, he was swallowed by silence, gone. Clothes folded neatly on the bank, no body, no farewell. But women? Women could bathe, fetch water, even swim, and nothing ever happened to them. The mystery grew until the river itself seemed cursed, and yet no one in Umuneke suspected the true danger walking quietly among them. Her name was Urimma, a beauty so striking it made men stutter and women whisper, skin smooth as polished bronze, eyes that caught light like water at dawn. No one knew where she had come from, no family, no story, yet she blended into village life like she had always been there, seen in the market, at the stream, carrying water on her head with impossible grace. People said she was hard-working. Some said she was simply blessed. Nobody asked more. Nobody wanted to. And while men were vanishing into the river, Urimma's life went on untouched, her smile disarming suspicion. The first man bold enough to test his fate was Okechukwu, a farmer with strong shoulders and yams that made other men jealous. He had been watching Urimma for months. Every tilt of her head, every step, every laugh that slipped past her lips felt like a net tightening around his heart. At last, one evening, he could hold it no longer. She was returning from the stream, her wrapper tied perfectly, water pot balanced, when he stepped in front of her. "Urimma," he said, his voice deep but trembling. "I've been watching you, and I can't keep it in anymore. I want you to be my wife. I have land, I have savings, I can take care of you properly." Urimma paused, her eyes glimmering in the fading light. Then she smiled slow, knowing, a smile that could undo any man. "Okechukwu," she whispered, "you are a good man. Come to my compound tomorrow evening. We will talk about this properly." That night Okechukwu didn't sleep. He told his mother, who clapped her hands in joy, "Finally, my son will marry. I will see grandchildren before I die." The next evening, Okechukwu came with palm wine and high hopes. Under the moonlight, Urimma's voice was soft, her words perfectly woven. She spoke of family, of children, of a quiet life built together. Everything he longed to hear spilled from her lips like honey. By the time he left, he was as good as engaged. 2 weeks later, the village gathered. The drums beat, the wine flowed, and Okechukwu married the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. His friends slapped his back, jealous of his fortune. His mother's eyes shone with pride. And when Urimma moved into his compound, she was the perfect wife, cooking, cleaning, never raising her voice. But perfection never lasts. Slowly, Okechukwu began to wither. At first, just tiredness, then weakness. His muscles, once hard from farm work, melted away. His skin lost color, his eyes sank. His mother begged him to see a healer, but he only smiled weakly. "Maybe you're working too hard," Urimma would say, her voice tender, her hand brushing his arm. "Rest more, my husband." But rest did nothing. He wasted away like a yam left too long in the Sunday. His friends whispered in the market. His mother wept in silence, and still Urimma smiled. 3 months after their wedding, on a blazing afternoon, Okechukwu woke dizzy, barely able to stand. Urimma was cooking. When she looked at him, her eyes held a coldness that sent a shiver through his fragile frame. "My husband," she said, voice low, almost commanding, "I need you to do something for me. Go to the river at 3 o'clock. There is something I left by the big rock near the deep water. Bring it to me." Okechukwu blinked in confusion. "Can't you go yourself?" "Number." Her voice hardened. "It must be you. Promise me. 3 o'clock sharp." Every instinct screamed no, but his mouth betrayed him. "I promise." At 3, the sun was merciless, the village quiet. Okechukwu walked to the river like a man in a dream. He found nothing by the rock, only water flowing endlessly. Then her voice came, soft, close, though she was nowhere to be seen. "Step into the water, Okechukwu. What I seek is inside." His feet moved without his will. The water clutched at his legs like hands. "Deeper," the voice urged. He waded chest deep, then neck deep. Panic surged, but his body betrayed him. He tried to call out, but what escaped his mouth was her laughter. On the bank, she appeared, no longer the dutiful wife. Her skin glowed unnaturally. Her hair floated as though she stood underwater. Her eyes were black voids. Okachukwu's last sight was her smile before the river closed over his head. That evening, his mother found only his folded clothes on the bank. No body, no son, only silence. Urimma wailed, cried, tore her wrapper in grief. The village pitied her, cursed fate, and called her a poor young widow. But after a month of mourning, her beauty shone brighter than ever. The village mourned Okechukwu for weeks. His mother wailed at the riverbank every dawn, and people shook their heads, whispering about fate. But when the mourning ended, Urimma's beauty seemed to shine brighter than before. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled, and men who had sworn never to marry a widow found themselves staring too long when she passed. Among them was Chinedu, a fisherman whose 3 boats brought more catch than anyone else in Umuneke. For months he had secretly admired Urimma, even while she was another man's wife. Now, with Okechukwu gone, he felt his chance had come. One evening, as Urimma sat outside her hut, her wrapper tied loosely, her eyes lowered like the picture of sorrow, Chinedu approached with a nervous smile. "Urimma," he said softly, "I know it may be too soon, but I cannot watch you suffer. Let me care for you. Marry me, and I will give you everything you need." Urimma lifted her gaze. The same smile she had given Okechukwu spread across her lips. Gentle, mesmerizing, dangerous. "Chinedu," she murmured, "you are kind, but I am still mourning my husband." "I don't ask you to forget him," Chinedu replied quickly, leaning closer, his heartbeat racing, "only to let me be by your side." For weeks he pursued her, bringing fish fresh from the river, firewood stacked neatly at her door, palm wine in gourds, and when she finally nodded her acceptance, the village buzzed with relief. "At last," they said, "the poor widow has found joy again." Their wedding was smaller, quieter, respectful of her mourning, but still, the drums beat, the wine flowed, and once more, Umuneke celebrated. And once more, the pattern began. For the first month, Chinedu was the happiest man alive. He bragged to his friends about his wife's beauty, about her soft hands and gentle words. She cooked for him, tended his home, and never raised her voice. But then, his strength began to slip away. His skin dulled, his eyes sank, his powerful fisherman's arms weakened. His friends noticed. "Chinedu," they said at the market, "are you ill? You look like a man who hasn't eaten in weeks." "I am fine," he answered, smiling weakly, though at night his dreams told a different story. In those dreams, Urimma stood in the water, her skin glowing, her hair floating like weeds, her black eyes staring deep into his soul. She whispered things he could never remember when he woke, only the weight of dread clinging to his chest. 3 months after their wedding, the pattern reached its climax. That morning, Urimma placed a calabash of food before him, but barely touched her own. Then, in the heat of the afternoon, she stood before him, her voice softer than silk but edged with command. "My husband, I left something by the big rock at the river. It is precious to me. Go there at 3 o'clock and bring it back." Chinedu frowned. "Why can't you go yourself?" Her eyes flashed just for a moment with something sharp. "Number, it must be you. 3 o'clock sharp. Promise me." And, like Okechukwu before him, Chinedu found his lips moving against his will. "I promise." That afternoon, under the blazing sun, the village fell silent as Chinedu walked to the riverbank. His clothes were later found, folded neatly by the rock, but no body. Urimma wept again, tearing her wrapper, her wails filling the village. And once more, people pitied her. But after her mourning, her beauty grew brighter still. Then came Emeka, the cattle rearer with the largest herd in 3 villages. After Emeka came Ikenna, the palm wine tapper whose brew drew buyers from faraway towns. One by one they courted her. One by one they married her. And one by one they weakened, wasted, and vanished into the river at exactly 3 o'clock. The elders began whispering. The pattern was too sharp, too strange to ignore. But who could accuse a widow who carried herself with such dignity? Each time, Urimma mourned with perfect ritual, her tears convincing, her face untouchable. Everyone remained silent. Everyone, except Mama Ngozi. She had lived long enough to see famine, war, and plague, and she trusted her instincts more than men's excuses. Urimma's beauty troubled her. It never faded. In fact, after each husband's death, it seemed to bloom stronger, and she noticed more. At community gatherings, Urimma served food but never ate. She praised the cooking but never lifted a morsel to her mouth. "This girl is not what she seems," Mama Ngozi muttered to her daughter by the cooking fire one evening. "Mark my words, something unnatural walks among us." Her daughter laughed. "Mama, you are growing old. Urimma is unlucky, nothing more." But Mama Ngozi wasn't laughing. That night, her suspicion deepened into certainty. Through the crack of her window, she saw Urimma's silhouette gliding toward the river. Quiet, graceful, too calm for a widow in the dead of night. Mama Ngozi wrapped her cloth around her shoulders and followed, her heart hammering with every step. Urimma didn't go to the usual bathing spot. She slipped into a hidden bend upstream where shadows clung thick to the trees and the water ran deep. What Mama Ngozi saw there would haunt her for the rest of her life. Urimma walked into the water without undressing. The river rose around her, and then she began to change. Her skin shimmered into scales. Her legs melted into a single tail that whipped the water. Her hair spread across the surface like a floating net. And her face, no longer human, not fully fish, became something monstrous and beautiful at once. And around her, swimming like shadows, were the men. Okechukwu, Chinedu, Emeka, Ikenna. Their bodies thin, translucent, their eyes hollow, not drowned, but enslaved, spirits feeding her with their very essence. Urimma raised her arms. Golden light streamed from the ghostly husbands into her body. Her scales brightened, her beauty sharpened, her power grew. Mama Ngozi stumbled back, her heart pounding so loud she feared Urimma would hear it. She had seen the truth at last, and she knew no one would believe her. She backed away from the river with trembling knees, each step slower than the last, terrified that even her heartbeat might betray her. She had seen too much. Far too much. The truth of Urimma was no longer a whisper in her bones. It was a living horror that throbbed before her eyes. But who would believe her? Who would dare to accept that the most beautiful woman in Umuneke, the woman men dreamed of and mothers praised, was a spirit who married only to drain life and bind souls? By dawn, her decision was made. She would speak, even if they called her mad. That morning she hobbled to the chief's compound, her wrapper still damp with the night's fear. "Chief," she said, voice quivering but determined, "the truth of our missing sons lies in Urimma. I saw her with my own eyes. She walks into the river and changes. She feeds on men, keeps their souls as slaves. That is why Okechukwu, Chinedu, Emeka, and Ikenna never returned." The chief's face hardened. "Old woman, grief has clouded your mind. You talk in riddles and folk tales. Be careful. Words like these can scatter peace in a village." She went to other elders, pleading, but they shook their heads, waved her away, even laughed. "Jealousy," some whispered. "She cannot bear Urimma's beauty," others muttered. "Her eyes are old. She sees spirits where there are none." Their disbelief stung, but Mama Ngozi would not relent. If the elders refused truth, she would find someone younger, someone the spirit had not yet claimed. She turned her eyes to Obinna. He was the blacksmith's son, broad-shouldered and proud, sparks often dancing on his arms as he hammered iron into shape. Strong, handsome, hard-working, exactly the kind Urimma liked. Already, Mama Ngozi had noticed how his gaze lingered when Urimma walked by. She found him at the forge, iron glowing on the anvil, sweat running down his back. "My son," she said, voice firm now, "I must warn you." Obinna looked up, wiping sweat from his brow, his smile boyish and easy. "Good morning, Mama Ngozi. What brings you here? Another hoe for your farm?" "No," she said sharply. "Stay away from Urimma. That woman is not what she appears to be." Obinna burst into laughter, the sound striking the anvil like another hammer blow. "Mama, do you want to keep all the beautiful women for yourself? Everyone knows Urimma is the finest in the village. Any man would be blessed to marry her." "That is exactly the problem," she snapped. "Think, Obinna. 4 husbands, all strong, all healthy, all dead within 2 years. Each one gone to the river at 3 in the afternoon, never to return. Only their clothes left behind, folded neat as if by invisible hands. Tell me, my son, what kind of accident looks so tidy?" His smile faltered. "Men have bad luck, Mama. Some sickness, some mistake." "Bad luck?" Mama Ngozi's voice dropped to a hiss. "Bad luck does not strike the same way, at the same hour, for 4 men in a row. Do you not see the snare? Urimma is not human. She is a water spirit marrying, draining, enslaving. I saw her. I saw them." For a long moment, Obinna only stared, his hammer idle in his hand. Then he barked out another laugh, though his eyes flickered uneasily. "Old tales, Mama. River spirits are for frightening children, not for blacksmiths. Urimma is just a woman unlucky, maybe cursed, but still a woman, and I can take care of myself." Her heart sank, but she tried one last time. She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "If you will not believe me, then remember this. Never go to the river at her bidding. Never eat or drink from her hand unless another tastes first. Promise me." For the first time, Obinna softened. He saw the worry carved into her wrinkled face, the kind of worry that came not from envy, but from fear. He sighed. "Mama Ngozi, I respect you, but I can handle her. Still, I will remember your words." That evening, as the sky bruised purple with sunset, Obinna walked to Urimma's hut. His voice was steady, his heart not. "Urimma, I cannot hide it any longer. I want you as my wife." And Urimma, with that smile that could turn a man's bones to water, answered yes. The wedding was celebrated with drums, songs, and laughter. The whole village rejoiced, save for one. Mama Ngozi stood at the edge of the crowd, her hands clenched tight, her eyes clouded with dread. But Obinna was not like the others. When Urimma pressed special meals into his hands, he shared them with neighbors. When she poured him strange drinks, he laughed and reached instead for palm wine. When she urged him to fetch something from the river at odd hours, he insisted on company. At first, she smiled, thinking it a game. But when weeks passed and her usual methods failed, the cracks began to show. The faintest lines appeared at the corners of her perfect eyes. Her skin, once glowing like wet clay in sunlight, dulled ever so slightly. She studied herself in a clay mirror bowl, her lips tightening. Obinna was resisting. And for the first time in years, Urimma was starving. Her smile no longer held the effortless glow that had bewitched every man before Obinna. Fine lines crept at the corners of her eyes. The shimmer of her skin dulled like a fading lantern. Hunger gnawed at her, deep and dangerous. Obinna's resistance was starving her. 3 months into their marriage, desperation drove her to abandon patience. That night, she shook him awake, tears streaking down her face. "My husband," she whispered, voice trembling, "I had a terrible dream. I saw your mother drowning in the river, calling for you. The spirits showed me. You must go, now before it is too late." Obinna sat upright, heart pounding. "My mother? She is asleep in her bed. I checked on her before I came to rest." "Dreams are warnings," Urimma pressed, clutching his arm. Her eyes gleamed with urgency. "Please, for my peace, go to the river. If you find nothing, you will return, and I will sleep easy." Something in her tone chilled him. He remembered Mama Ngozi's voice, sharp as iron on stone. "Never let her send you to the river." For the first time, the old woman's warnings rang true. "If you are so troubled," Obinna said carefully, "then we will both go, together." Her answer was too quick, too sharp. "No, it must be you, and you alone." That is how the spirits commanded it. Obinna turned and studied her face in the half-light. For months he had seen only beauty, but now he saw the hunger lurking beneath, the shadow in her eyes. "Urimma," he asked quietly, "why must I go alone? Why do you speak as though the spirits gave you orders?" Her hands, cold as river stones, closed around his wrist. Her voice deepened, rippling like sound underwater. "Do not question what you cannot understand. The spirits chose you. You will go." Every instinct in Obinna screamed. He had forged steel under fire, faced sparks that leapt to blind him, heat that could sear flesh to bone. Danger had a taste, and tonight it burned on his tongue. "No," he said, firm as iron. "I will wait until morning." The mask slipped. Her eyes turned black, pitiless voids. Her lips peeled back in a smile too wide, teeth sharper than human. "You will go now," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of the river itself. "You will go alone. You will obey me, as all the others did." The words slammed into him like fists. His legs twitched. His body moved toward the door against his will. Panic flared. Yet he fought back. Muscles taut. Jaw clenched. He forced himself to stay rooted. "No," he growled. Urimma snarled, the sound animal, guttural. "You cannot resist me forever. Every man before you walked into the water when I called. You will join them." Obinna's breath caught. "What happened to them? What did you do to Okechukwu, to Chinedu, to the rest?" Her smile widened, monstrous and proud. "They serve me now. They feed my beauty. They are mine for eternity. And soon, so will you be." The room chilled. Shadows thickened around her form as scales shimmered faintly beneath her skin. Her hair lifted and swayed as though suspended in water. Obinna's heart hammered. Death loomed, but something sharper cut through his fear. Clarity. "If you mean to kill me," he said, steadying his voice, "then tell me what you truly are." She laughed, the sound like water rushing over stones, ancient and cruel. "I am older than your village, older than your father's father. I am of the deep waters. I have feasted on men's life force for centuries. Your land is not the first I have hunted, nor will it be the last." "How?" he demanded. "How do you take them?" Her eyes glowed with triumph. "Marriage binds them to me. Through that bond I drink their strength, little by little, until they are nothing but husks. Then I call them to the river. There I finish the work. Their spirits fuel me. Their lives make me eternal." Obinna's stomach knotted, but he forced himself to keep her talking. "Why men? Why not women?" She tilted her head, almost mocking. "Women's essence is soft, thin. It cannot sustain me. Men burn brighter, stronger, and men are easier to fool. A smile, a glance, and their reason dissolves." As she gloated, Obinna seized his chance. He lunged for the door, but her speed was not human. Her claws, yes, claws now, not fingers dug into his arm, dragging him back. "You cannot run," she hissed. "Marriage binds us. No matter where you go, I will call, and you will obey." Even as her words echoed in his head, he fought the compulsion, clinging to his will like a man clings to a rock in a flood. "Maybe you can break me one day," he said through gritted teeth, "but not tonight." And not before I tell the village what you are." With a surge of strength, he ripped free, shoving her back. Her scream tore through the hut, raw, furious, unnatural. Obinna didn't wait. He burst into the night and ran, her rage echoing behind him like the howl of a storm. He pounded on Mama Ngozi's door, chest heaving. She opened it at once, eyes grim, as though she had been waiting. "She has shown herself," he gasped. "She told me everything." Mama Ngozi nodded, her expression hard. "I knew it would come to this." "What do we do now?" Obinna asked, still breathless. "The elders won't believe me. They'll say I'm bewitched." "Then we show them," she said. Her voice carried the weight of finality. "We catch her in her true form, with their own eyes to see. Only then will the village believe." That night, they planned. By dawn, they carried their warnings to the chief. He frowned, doubted, but Obinna's terror and Mama Ngozi's fire planted enough unease to act. Witnesses were chosen. A watch was set. And as the sun fell, shadows lengthening over Umuneke, they took their places by the river. The night was thick, heavy. The river whispered. Then, just as Mama Ngozi had foretold, Urimma came. She walked into the water, slow and regal, her beauty unraveling in the moonlight. Flesh melted into scales that gleamed like liquid silver. Her hair spread across the surface in writhing strands. Her form stretched into something both breathtaking and monstrous. The watchers clutched their mouths to keep from crying out. And then she raised her arms, chanting words that rolled like waves. The river stirred. From its depths rose shadows that took shape, faces pale, hollow, familiar. Okechukwu, Chinedu, Emeka, Ikenna. They rose from the river like pale shadows, their hollow eyes fixed on nothing. Once strong men of Umuneke, now reduced to translucent slaves, circling the woman who had stolen their lives. Golden light leaked from their bodies in slow streams, flowing into Urimma. Each wisp fed her glow, each stolen breath fueled her eternal beauty. The witnesses trembled in the bushes. One dropped his torch, another whimpered into his hand. The chief silenced them with a sharp gesture. They had to see this, had to let the truth scar itself into their minds. And then Urimma's voice came low, sweet, and terrible. "Obinna." It wasn't a call, it was a command. The sound slid into his skull, deeper than thought, wrapping around his will. "Come, my husband, join your brothers in eternal service. Come and give me your strength." Obinna's heart pounded. His legs moved of their own accord, carrying him toward the river. Mama Ngozi clutched his arm, nails digging into his skin. "Fight her," she hissed. "Remember who she is. Remember the men she has taken. Do not let her win." But the compulsion was iron. Step by step, Obinna walked, his eyes glazed, his body obeying a call older than his own blood. At the river's edge, Urimma stood with her arms open, her black eyes shimmering like the abyss. Behind her, the ghosts of her husbands swam in slow circles, watching him with empty sorrow. Just as Obinna's foot touched the water, a voice cut the night. "Enough." The village priest leapt from hiding, raising his staff high. His chants rolled like thunder, each word sharp with holy fire. The air quivered, and for a heartbeat, Obinna's mind cleared. The spell cracked. His legs stopped. Urimma screeched. The sound tore through the night, like 1,000 men drowning at once. "Now!" shouted the chief. Torches blazed as the witnesses surged from the bushes. Spears gleamed. Drums of fear pounded in their chests, but they held their ground, circling the riverbank. Urimma's disguise was gone. Scales shimmered across her skin, her hair writhed like living weeds, and her teeth glistened sharp in the firelight. "You cannot stop me," she roared, her voice shaking the trees. "I am eternal. When you are all dust, I will still walk the waters. I will find other men, other villages. You are nothing to me." But the priest did not falter. His chants rose higher, and the villagers pressed in. For the first time in centuries, Urimma was cornered. With a final scream of rage, she dove into the river. The water swallowed her whole, dragging her spirit slaves down with her. The ripples spread wide, then stilled. The villagers waited, torches held high. Minutes passed. Hours. But she did not rise again. Only then did they dare to breathe. In the days that followed, Umuneke mourned. Ceremonies were held for the lost men. Families wept, offerings were made, and the river was named Cursed Ground. Mama Ngozi became a hero, though she shook her head at the praise. "I only spoke what I saw," she said. The danger was hers. The bravery was Obinna's. But Obinna was never the same. The marriage bond had scarred him, and though Urimma was gone, the shadow of her call lingered in his blood. He never took another wife. Instead, he poured his life into his craft and into warning others. The river itself was never trusted again. People fetched water with caution, their eyes lingering on the surface as though waiting for something or someone to rise. On nights when the moon shone silver on the current, villagers swore they could hear faint voices from below, whispering warnings, begging never to be forgotten. And so the elders taught their children. Before you marry, ask questions. Before you trust, search deeply. The sweetest smile can hide the sharpest teeth. The softest voice can lead you to the river. Years passed. Umuneke healed, but evil does not vanish, it shifts. 3 years later, whispers came from Obioma, a village 2 days east. Young men were vanishing again. Their widows wept at the river's edge, and their neighbors spoke of a new woman in town, a woman named Adana. Tall, graceful, skin like polished bronze, eyes that seemed to hold starlight. Mama Ngozi heard the news and felt her stomach turn to stone. "She has moved," she told the chief. "Urimma walks again, wearing another name." Messengers were sent, warnings were given, but Obioma's elders laughed, dismissing the fears as jealous lies from a rival village. And as before, the disappearances continued. This time, it was Obinna himself who rose from his forge, jaw set, voice hard. "I must go," he told Mama Ngozi. "I am the only one who has faced her and lived. If anyone can see through her disguise, it is me." And with that, he set out toward Obioma, not knowing if this time the river spirit would finally claim him. The road to Obioma tested Obinna in ways he had never known. Each step dragged like chains, not because of the distance, but because of the voice that slipped into his mind with every breath of wind. "Come to me, husband," it whispered, soft at first, then sharper. "Come and fulfill your destiny. Join your brothers in eternal service." It was Urimma, calling him, pulling at the invisible bond that had never truly broken. Obinna clenched his jaw and pressed forward. The priests of Umuneke had armed him with charms of iron and prayers carved into the mirror of polished metal that swung from his bag. Still, he felt her in his blood, an ache that made his chest tighten, a command that made his legs twitch to obey. He fought it, step after step, because if he failed, another village would fall. By the time he reached Obioma, sweat clung to him like a second skin, and then he saw her. She called herself Adana now. Her hair was shorter, her skin slightly darker, her voice softened to win new hearts. But Obinna's altered sight, the scar left on his soul by their marriage, saw what others could not. Around her feet swirled the dead. Okechukwu, Chinedu, Emeka, Ikenna, and now the pale, hollow-eyed spirits of Obioma's lost men. They followed her like chained dogs, their once strong bodies now nothing but translucent shells feeding her beauty. "That woman is the same creature that destroyed Umuneke," Obinna thundered before the gathered elders. His voice cracked, but his conviction did not. "She is Urimma, a river spirit that feeds on men's souls." The elders murmured, doubt heavy in their eyes. But Obinna had not come empty-handed. From his bag, he lifted the mirror-polished metal engraved with spells older than the village itself. He held it high, his arm trembling not from weakness, but from the weight of the moment. "Look at your beloved Adana through this," he challenged. "If she is human, the mirror will show her as you see her now. But if she is what I say she is, then the truth will reveal itself." The elders hesitated, fear prickling at their skin. At last, one stepped forward, holding the mirror so its surface caught the sunlight. Gasps tore through the gathering. The reflection was not Adana. It was Urimma in her true form, skin glistening with scales, hair writhing like black weeds under water, eyes nothing but pits of darkness. Around her, the spirits of her victims hovered, pale mouths opening in silent screams. "Demon!" one elder shrieked, dropping the mirror to the dust. Urimma's smile vanished. With a hiss like water striking hot coals, she shed her disguise and revealed herself to all. Women clutched their children. Men staggered back in terror. Some ran. But Obinna stood firm. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," Urimma snarled, her voice rolling like thunder over rapids. Around her, the spirits tightened their circle, growing more solid as she poured power into them. Obinna realized with a weight that chilled his heart that she meant to use the dead as her army. "People of Obioma," he shouted, "stand with me. If you scatter, she will pick us off one by one." But fear ruled stronger than reason. The villagers fled, leaving him alone on the cracked earth, with nothing but his blacksmith's tools and his will. Urimma raised her arms. The river answered her. Water surged from its banks, rushing through the streets like a flood sent from the gods. Her spirit slave swam through it, hands reaching, faces twisted in eternal sorrow. Obinna swung his hammer. The blessed metal struck one of the phantoms, and the spirit recoiled with a shriek that split the night. Again he swung, and again the enemy fell back. But there were too many. For every strike, 3 more advanced. His arms ached. His chest burned. The flood pressed harder. Urimma laughed, her beauty glowing brighter as panic swelled around them. And then voices. Prayers. From the hill beyond the river, priests from neighboring villages descended, their chants rising like fire against the tide. They carried staffs and charms that burned with holy power. They plunged into the water, their words weaving barriers that forced the spirits back. For the first time, Urimma's smile faltered. The battle raged, water against fire, curses against blessings. The priest's words broke chains, and one by one the spirits of the dead began to stir. "We want to rest," whispered Okechukwu's ghost, his face drawn with longing. "She has bound us too long," Chinedu added, his voice trembling like wind through reeds. The bonds cracked. The golden threads that tied them to Urimma began to snap. Her beauty faltered. Her power dimmed. "No!" she screamed, thrashing in fury. "You belong to me!" But the spirits, freed by prayer and steel, rose against her. Namdi, the first man she had claimed in Obioma, shone brightest. "You promised me eternal love," his voice rang out, clear and strong. "But you gave me only eternal suffering. I will be your slave no longer." At his cry, all the spirits broke free. Urimma staggered, her body dissolving, her beauty peeling away to reveal the monster beneath. She clawed at the air, desperate to cling to the power draining from her. "This is not the end," she gasped, voice bubbling like drowning water. "I am eternal. I will return. Beauty like mine cannot die." Her scream rose, shrill and endless, before her form collapsed into mist, and then silence. Obinna stood panting, drenched in sweat and river water, his hammer trembling in his grip. Around him, the freed spirits drifted upward, their faces peaceful for the first time in years. They vanished into the night sky, leaving nothing but the faint whisper of their gratitude. Obinna's voice broke the silence. "Perhaps you are eternal," he said, staring at the place where Urimma had vanished. "But beauty without love, power without purpose, life without meaning, that is its own kind of death." The people of Obioma crept back, shaken but alive. The battle was over. But the story of Urimma the river bride who fed on men's souls was only beginning to spread. And so, the tale of Urimma slipped into legend. 2 villages scarred, countless lives lost. But also, a lesson carved deep into memory. Evil does not always come with claws or fangs. Sometimes it comes wrapped in beauty, speaking softly, smiling sweetly, asking only for love. The elders of Umuneke and Obioma passed this story down to remind their children forever. Before you trust, investigate. Before you love, understand. Before you give your heart, be sure it beats beside one that is truly human. Because the most dangerous predator is not the one hiding in the forest. It is the one hiding behind a smile. Even now, when the moon is bright and the rivers shimmer in silence, some say you can still hear the cries of her victims beneath the water. A warning whispered across generations. Be careful, be cautious, be wise. The sweetest voice may be a siren's call, and the most beautiful face may hide the sharpest teeth. And so, dear viewers, we have come to the end of Urimma's tale. If this story chilled you, or left you with a lesson to carry, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next story. And for those who've already subscribed, thank you, truly. Your support keeps these tales alive. If you felt the suspense, the chill, or the warning hidden in these words, drop a comment below and hit the like button. It helps this story travel further. It tells the algorithm this tale is worth sharing, because sometimes one story told at the right moment can save someone from the sharpest teeth hiding behind the sweetest smile.